Evolution.
Last winter, Eric Laithwaite built a model of a new invention out of his boyhood Meccano set. The invention had taken him 20 years to develop. When he first proposed it, he was at the height of his career and perhaps the most celebrated engineer in Britain. But the scientific establishment ostracized him because they thought the idea defied the laws of physics. Until tonight, it's been seen only by a small band of sympathizers.
I've been involved in making some pretty unusual machines in my time, but even on those standards, this is a very unusual device indeed. It's a new form of propulsion that the establishment said couldn't possibly work. This is a model of something which we have now established as a possible drive even for space vehicles, but nevertheless, as far as the establishment is concerned, this is heresy. The heart of this new machine is a gyroscope, and gyroscopes have always fascinated me. Of course, they're to do essentially with things that spin, and I think things that spin are magic, whether it be spinning electrons, spinning planets, or spinning galaxies. Sometimes I think spin is all there is. I think matter itself is nothing but spin. Certainly, with this gyroscope, I hope to develop an entirely new propulsion system.
That a toy might become a new form of propulsion has sounded to most of Laithwaite's colleagues like the fantasy of a child, not an engineer.
When you first see a gyroscope, it looks magical. And for some reason, he seems to have taken this childlike impression of the gyroscope. He thought it was something strange and mysterious. And if you are an innovator, as he is, the strange and mysterious have a great attraction. And he followed that, and he followed it too far.
There you go.
But for some engineers, he's a hero.
Eric Laithwaite is one of the giants of electrical machine developments in the 20th century. He's a man with intense curiosity about all technical matters, a burning desire to find out how things work, how things operate. He also has a desire to communicate his ideas and share his enthusiasm.
You get the impression that it's trying to get a grip on this magnetic flux.
Laithwaite seems always to have had an enthusiasm for the strange and magical.
Now it's going nicely.
The linear electric motor is a very simple idea. It's just an ordinary electric motor which has been unrolled and will produce a force.
He's best known as the developer of the linear motor.
We put the aluminium plate on the surface and switch on. And the effect of the force is now quite obvious.
In the 60s, as a young professor at Imperial College, Laithwaite developed scores of applications for the linear motor. In the 70s, one was used to power a British experimental high-speed train. Laithwaite helped develop a full-scale test vehicle combining the latest hovercraft and linear motor technology. But one day he suddenly got bad news.
The tracked hovercraft company is at present in jeopardy, and it stands a chance of stopping just for lack of funds.
And stop it did when the British government pulled out. But Laithwaite wasn't beaten.
Switch on.
He immediately proposed an even better idea for a high-speed train.
Now you see the supported height is now about 6 inches. And 6 inches is more than the height you would need to suspend a high-speed train.
He made a linear motor levitate by electromagnetism.
We've designed a motor to propel it, which gives you the lift and guidance for nothing. Literally for nothing, for no additional equipment, and for no additional power input. This is beyond my wildest dreams that I should ever see that sort of thing occur.
Maglev has shown up well under test at the Railway Technical Centre.
But in Britain, Laithwaite's visionary idea was only half-heartedly developed and then dropped,
with all this going
only to be taken up by the Japanese and Germans. It was the final disappointment.
The cancellation was a terrible blow to him. He saw a major project work he had been engaged in for years, which had been building up gradually but steadily, making progress and seeming to be leading to something quite outstanding. He saw this all vanish, disappear almost overnight when the project was cancelled, and it was a terrible blow for him.
Electromagnetism is, for me, the nearest thing we have to sheer magic. Two different directions of motion with one and the same set of coils.
But ironically, for the public, Laithwaite was rapidly becoming an engineering superstar. He tried hard to be as enthusiastic about linear motors as before, but he now knew it was a technology that in Britain had been unfulfilled.
I've got a rubber model.
He'd reached a dead end, but his life was about to be changed forever. One fateful day, this man phoned Laithwaite to say he had a remarkable new invention. Laithwaite invited him to Imperial College. An amateur inventor, Alex Jones, had brought Laithwaite a crude device which he said broke the laws of physics. Other scientists of Laithwaite's eminence might well have dismissed him as a crank, but Laithwaite was curious. Jones's device consisted of a weight hinged to an upright stand mounted on wheels. Just swinging the weight from side to side, said Jones, would propel the device a few feet forward, with no drive to the wheels, no external thrust. Laithwaite knew that was impossible, but Jones told him it wasn't, if the weight was a spinning gyroscope.